Please, the show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The following program contains mature content. Any opinions expressed are those solely of the host and any guests. Listener discretion strongly advised.
And welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wyce Thoughts. Each virtual campfire sit-down of Wyce Thoughts is a step inside my mind. We'll talk about various topics that affect you and the world around you. As always, you're invited to the conversation. You can email us at mail@wycethoughts.com. You can tweet at me on Twitter @TerryWyce. Just make sure you spell my name right, W-Y-C-E, @TerryWyce on Twitter. Join us on our Facebook page as well. Just look for Wyce Thoughts, and our YouTube channel. Search for Wyce Thoughts. On this episode of Wyce Thoughts, are you working in a toxic workplace? Seems to be a lot of that going around nowadays, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on toxicity in the workplace, and maybe you just might find out you're working in a toxic workplace. We're going to talk about it this time on Wyce Thoughts. So grab your favorite beverage, pull up a seat around our virtual campfire. We're going to get to it in just a bit. And it's all coming your way on Wyce Thoughts. Stay tuned. Welcome to Wyce Thoughts, your destination for real talk. No holds barred, nothing held back, telling it like it is. Now, let's meet the man with a face built for radio. Here's our host, Terry Wyce. Thank you, Mr. Announcer Extraordinaire. Hey, everybody. Oh, I like this music. I like this stinger music. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wyce Thoughts. So glad you're here. Got a lot in store for you on the program. And hey, did I tell you about the website, wycethoughts.com? Just make sure you spell my name right, W-Y-C-E, wycethoughts.com. There you can listen to more episodes of this podcast and reach out to us as well. And you can also check us out at Purple Pit Studios, purplepitstudios.com. Not only listen to Wyce Thoughts, but all the other shows that Purple Pit Studios offers you, okay? All right. Let's get into today's program. Are you in a toxic work environment? Let's talk about it right now on Wyce Thoughts. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, everybody. Hey, welcome to Wyce Thoughts. So glad you're here. Boy, that music that gets the old juices a-flowing, doesn't it, Mr. Producer Extraordinaire? Thank you for that. Welcome, one and all. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is happy and healthy. And, everyone's doing fine here. We're in the throes of winter, of our discontent. Our good old-fashioned country here, the United States of America, is still going through some angst and anxiety and suffering at the hands of the current administration. I am, needless to say, I am not a fan at all of the current, not a fan of the current administration. But that's a topic for another time and another show, shall we? But I hope you are all doing well, Mr. Producer Extraordinaire. You're doing fine as well. That's great. So, talking about your health and your mental well-being, there's a lot in the news nowadays about mental health. And as it should be, it's coming more and more to the forefront, as it definitely should be. Because I think here, especially in the USA, we kind of stigmatize people that are having some challenges with their mental health. And I'll tell you, folks, there's no shame. There's no shame in being stressed out. There's no shame in being overwhelmed, having anxiety, having, issues with your mental health at all, no matter what they may be. I just mentioned a few there. But there's no shame in that. And it seems a good majority of our population still like to stigmatize that. And the reason we're doing this show today, entitled our, toxicity, are you in a toxic work environment? The consumerism that is in the United States, the out and out, capitalist consumerism, I call it. And again, at its heart, it's not a bad thing. It's what built this country. It's what has elevated us to the standard of living that we have, that almost everyone in the free world wishes they had, and the freedoms that we have that a lot of parts of the world don't have. I mean, although they're trying, the government is quickly, and certain woke people are trying to erode our freedoms in this nation, but don't worry, we're going to fight that to our last dying breath. We're not going to let them take our freedom away in this nation. Hell no, at least I won't. And I know a lot of you out there have expressed the same sentiment as well. And the focus, though, on the mental health aspect here, we're constantly being bombarded in the media with buy more, do more. If you're not a workaholic, then your life ain't worth spit. If you don't have the newest car, the biggest house, the new boat, the new toy, the new, handbag for the ladies, or the new perfume, or the new, diamonds and, jewelry and the latest fashion and things like that. I mean, we as everyday Americans out here, we're constantly getting bombarded with those advertising messages. And I know, I get it. It's the goal of advertisers to sell you shit. I mean, that's just plain and simple at its core. If they don't sell you shit, they don't make money, and then they're not in business, and they're not, earning their pay, etc. That's great. That being said, however, the drive and the mental pressure put on people to strive for this, to, work themselves to the bone, I think contributes to the willingness and the acquiescence of putting up with toxic work environments. Now, let me elaborate on this. What I mean by a toxic work environment, and I have experienced this in my own life, so I can speak from experience. You're getting someone who's experienced a very toxic work environment in his travels. You're not appreciated at work. Signs of a toxic work environment. You can Google some of these. You're not appreciated by your managers or management team. You are constantly pushed to perfection. Your wins are not celebrated. And what they mean by your wins is like, hey, when you just do a good job. Now, I'm not saying that someone has to be there every minute of the day patting you on the back, saying, oh, good boy, good girl, good boy. Yo, you're wonderful. You're the best things in sliced bread. I'm not talking about that. But every once in a while, hey, send out an email to your team. Great job. And, we appreciate all your efforts here. We appreciate your continuing efforts, however you want to word it. You don't get that from your management team when you're in a toxic work environment. You get mistakes pointed out. You get reprimanded. You get, that corporate buzzword they love to use, coaching. We're going to coach you. I hate that fucking term, coaching. What are we, on a fucking baseball team? What are we going for? Are we trying to win a game here? I mean, how about just let's have a talk about, some concerns or something. Fucking coaching. Corporate buzzword bullshit, I call it. CBB, corporate buzzword bullshit. And a lot of corporations have it. Now, when you're in a toxic work environment, you don't get that. You don't get the small wins celebrated. You don't get the occasional, occasional contact that, hey, we appreciate you. Hey, the department you're working. Hey, we appreciate the advertising department. We appreciate the phone department. We appreciate the receptionist team, or we appreciate the IT department for all that they do. You don't get that occasional recognition is what I'm trying to say. So you don't have that, and believe me, employers, if you're listening, if any of you are in management that happen to listen to Wyce Thoughts here, a little goes a long way with your team. I'm telling you right now, a little will go a long way. And I can speak from being on the other, the receiving end. Your team will work harder for you. Your team will be in a better mental place. They'll work hard. They'll outperform because they feel appreciated. Nobody likes to feel like they're not appreciated, whether it's in a personal environment or especially, like a work environment. Nobody likes to feel that, they're just, piss-ons. I mean, peons, piss-ons. Nobody likes to get shit on. Let's just use proper, everyday adult language. So that being said, that's a sign definitely that you're in a toxic work environment. Another sign you're in a toxic work environment is when you do have what you feel are maybe legitimate concerns, and you bring this to the attention of a supervisor, someone in that type of role. Your concerns are just basically blown off, not validated, not acknowledged. Now, I'm not saying that they have to accept everything you say and act on it, but to at least, hey, we hear you, we understand. Let us look into this, and give us some time to get back to you, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't have to be something that is solved in that immediate email, phone call, whatever, message communication, but at least acknowledge, hey, we understand you're bringing this to us. Obviously, you've taken the time to contact and reach out. You feel it's a concern, so we're going to investigate that, that issue, that concern, whatever, that interaction, that whatever, and get back to you. And then follow up, management team. If you don't get that, you're definitely in a toxic work environment. Another sign you're in a toxic work environment is unrealistic expectations. I'm just going to give you an example of something. Let's say you're in a department that takes orders every day, and you've got 10 team members working in this department, and it's pretty steady when you go in for your 8-hour shift. Well, if all of a sudden the workload triples, you're expected to have the same level of performance, the same time frame for performance, and quality of performance, just like nothing changed. To me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's an unrealistic expectation. And here's why. Now, some of you out there are going to go poo-poo. Well, you're a professional, your business. If they tell you, hey, your workload's going to triple here for a short period of time or for going forward, you should just grin and bear it. If you're setting and meeting or exceeding expectations with a certain parameters and a certain labor force, and then all of a sudden that workload is tripled, folks, common sense, there's going to be slowdowns. There might be errors in orders. There might be an absence that day from one or more of your team members. If your management team or your company doesn't give you more tools or the tools you need to perform your job at least at the company standards with that expectation, and when they increase your duties and what have you, don't give you the tools that you need to properly execute the increased workload, influx of calls, influx of customers walking through the door, what have you, okay? That is an unrealistic expectation, and that is something that Terry Wyce does not live his life by, unrealistic expectation, whether it's in my professional or personal interactions. I stopped accepting unrealistic expectations years ago, and I give them and some people don't like it. They think I'm being an asshole or condescending when I say, well, that's an unrealistic expectation. Well, what do you mean? Well, you're asking me to fly without wings. You're asking me to fly without an airplane. Well, that's not the same thing. We're just asking you to, be on the lookout that, instead of 100 customers coming into your location, you're going to have 350 to 500 customers coming in, but we're not giving you any more staff to help you. We're not going to give you even extended hours, but we still want the same productivity and output as before. Well, that's an unrealistic expectation. That we only have so many people here, and we were doing the other workload. We might be able to handle maybe a 20 or 25% increase, maybe even a 30%, maybe even a 40 or 50% increase, and still maintain the time constraints, expectations, and service level. But when you quadruple it, that's an unrealistic expectation. Now, there's two ways to solve that. You either back off that expectation and, we will still strive to obviously do our best and perform to the best of our ability to meet the goal, or you give us more tools to do the job. Barring anything from any of those two deviations, it's an unrealistic expectation, and you're going to get what you get. And some people might frown upon that, but that's, again, could be a really good indicator that you're in a toxic work environment. Now, another sign that you might be in a toxic work environment is you absolutely start hating your job. The people are backstabbing. The management team acts like the employees. And what I mean by the management team, your management or manager or managers start acting like employees and not the elevated sense of the step above employees. Now, so let me kind of clarify what I mean here. It's okay to be friendly with your subordinates if you're a manager. I've been a manager at many companies throughout my life in the past. And it's okay to be friendly and, hey, Bob, hey, Sue, hey, Ann, hey, Fred. It's okay to be on hey, how was that, how was the wedding last weekend? Did you guys have a great time? Fantastic. How was your vacation? Did you enjoy it? Did you get a chance to relax? It's okay to be friendly. But at the end of the day, you're not their friends. You are their supervisor. You are their manager. So you must, as a manager or a supervisor, have a certain degree of separation between your subordinates and yourself. It's just good business. It's professionalism. Because you have to communicate things that sometimes they may not like. You may have to reprimand them. You may have to fire them someday for whatever reason. So you, as a manager or a supervisor, better damn well act with higher levels of integrity than your employees, more professionalism than your employees. You better know how to send a properly, professionally worded email. And for God's sakes, managers, I don't know how many times I've seen this at many organizations. There's goddamn spell check in any email program nowadays, Outlook especially. Use the spell check. Proofread your emails. You know what I learned when you send an email? Even in my personal life, I do this. I write the email. I check it for spelling errors, grammatical errors, with the automatic program or what have you. I read it out loud. Read it out loud. Not once, not twice, but thrice. Read it 3 times out loud. Is what I'm saying makes sense? Does this sound right? If I was talking to you face to face, what would the inference? How would you receive this? Okay. Am I not, I'm not shouting in all caps on there or exclamation points to, drive home points. Read it at least 3 times before you hit send. And I do that in my personal life too. So managers, please learn to use the tools. Be professionals. You can be friendly, but again, be the professional that you were hired to be. And if you can't, then get some training, get some insight, buy some books, whatever. Go back to school, learn how, or maybe being a manager just isn't for you. You have to learn how to lead your teams, because you can have a title, but not be that title, all right? And not garner the respect of your employees or subordinates. Because I'll tell you what, once you start losing that, you're done. Once you start losing the respect of your team and your employees, and now there's always going to be a few. There's going to be a few employees that no matter what you do, no matter how you try to bend over backwards to help them and understand their situations, but you have certain parameters that you have to follow. No matter what you do, they're not going to like you. They're going to think you're a terrible boss or a terrible manager. There's going to be that percentage in any organization. However, if you've got 60 to 70% of your team that absolutely hate your fucking guts, you're the problem. Your style's the problem. Your communication tactics are the problem. You better check yourself because you're wrecking your department and your team. And if that organization allows 70% of your team to absolutely despise you and they're going over your head and they're going to HR after trying to talk to you. And I'm not talking about a couple out of your team. I'm talking if 70%, by volume of your team absolutely despises you and hates your guts and is going over your head after trying to resolve issues with you, going to the HR department, going to your boss over your head because they can't get satisfaction, you're the problem. Look in the mirror, and you better start thinking about how you're interacting with your team, your employees, your communication skills, both verbally and written, because something is wrong. It's a big red flag. And I've worked in organizations like this. particular where there was an individual running a department that, first of all, had no business running it because they didn't know the first thing how to run it. They were just, I don't know if they were just tapped on the shoulder and said, here, do this. And that's unfortunate for the organization that I worked for. But again, be the professional. Great sign you're in a toxic work environment if, your team is always mumbling about the management and, almost everybody you talk to says, yeah, the management here sucks, man. They're awful. They're like high school kids. They're worse than high school. I think I'm back in grade school or middle school and in a playground, whatever. There's a problem. Start thinking about that. If you hate your job, you start loathing punching in every day, whether it's virtually from home or going to an office. If you are just cringing every waking moment, going in there and at the end of the day, you just feel like you had the ever-loving shit beat out of you, that's a problem. That's a problem. Signs you might be in a toxic work environment. So, these are things that you got to stop and think about. So you got to think about stuff like that. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about more of toxicity in the workplace. And are you in a toxic work environment? And we're going to talk about some ways you can fix it right after this. Stay tuned on Wyce Thoughts.
Wearing his sunglasses indoors just because he wants to. Let's get back to the program. Here's your host, Terry Wyce.
Well, thank you, Mr. Announcer. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Wyce Thoughts. We're so glad you're here today. And do us a favor, would you share us with your friends? Check out the website on YouTube, wycethoughts.com. And if you're enjoying the program, how about a positive rate and review, either on the website at purplepitstudios.com, wycethoughts.com, or on your favorite podcast provider. We'd surely would appreciate that. We're talking about toxicity in the workplace, and are you in a toxic work environment this time on Wyce Thoughts? And before the break, we were talking about, some things you can look for to say, hey, am I in a toxic work environment? Because sometimes you just don't realize it. You think, hey, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one with the friggin' problem. I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't, you don't know because it's easy to fall into. And it when it first happened to me, I was having a lot of self-doubt. I was checking myself. All right, is this me? Why are they bringing out the worst in me? I used to love to work here. What's going on? And you start thinking, okay, what's changed? What's changed here? What's going on? All right, yeah, okay, they said we're going to have a deadline for this or that, but we've done deadlines. But yeah, this kind of seems like an uphill battle. However, but you start second-guessing yourself. You start second-guessing your work and that. And it's been proven. And folks, you can Google this. You can search on any website, search engine you want. And, Google seems to be the most popular. But, you can even search YouTube and things like that for, information on the toxic workplace and the adverse effects it has on your health and your mental health as well. I mean, it'll drive you insane. Your stress levels will shoot up. Blood pressure could shoot up. Gastrointestinal problems, aches and pains, anxiety, panic attacks, migraines. I mean, from the stress level and everything, just from being in a toxic, like any other toxic environment. And a toxic workplace is pretty bad because, unfortunately, many of us have to work. I don't know many of us that are independently wealthy. I certainly wish I was. However, many of us out here in the real world, we gotta punch in and punch out and earn a living so we can pay for our homes and provide food and shelter for our families and ourselves and what have you, and pay our obligations. For those of you sitting there living off the government teat, well, this doesn't apply to you, I guess. However, the rest of us, productive members, good little drone productive members of society, we have to acquiesce and do it. Now, like we teased before the break, we're going to talk about some ways now. What can you do once you discover you're in a toxic work environment? Now, the first thing that comes to my mind, and what I started doing, is I took inventory of myself. I said, okay, let's just take some few deep breaths. And what you may want to do, you might have to step away from your job for a bit. Now, what I mean by this is the following. You might have to take a personal day or two. All right, just call off. Call in sick, whatever. If you got some PTO, paid time off time, they call it, or some vacation time coming, just take a couple days and just detach yourself from work. During that time, get in touch with you, man. Get in touch with the inner you and just relax. Do what you love. Read a book, go to a movie, go to dinner, spend time with your significant other. Take walks, exercise, drink tea, meditate, whatever. Practice yoga, karate, jujitsu, ironing, knitting, play music, whatever it is. Dedicate at least one of those 2 days that you're going to take off to just you. Have a you day, because maybe you haven't been having enough of those. Now, the other thing that you want to do is you want to start really giving serious thought to, all right, what can I do to reduce this toxicity in the workplace? It may be as simple as having an honest heart-to-heart with your manager or management team and saying, listen, I'd like to have a conference call, and I want to have an open and honest dialogue with you about some concerns I have about the environment, the way I feel the environment is going in my department or here at this organization. I'd like to just have an honest back and forth dialogue and share some concerns and get your feedback as well, and have you share some concerns maybe about me or the department. Let's have an open, honest dialogue. Can we set aside some time? Now, if your organization or your manager or management team will not do this, start looking for another job. Get the hell out. If they're not willing to at least acknowledge and listen to you and have an honest verbal back and forth, whether it's face-to-face or if you work virtually in a virtual setting, you can do it over the phone. You don't have to have cameras on or whatever. If they're not willing to at least have that conversation with you, and don't be a jerk about it. Don't say, I got to tell you all the things you're doing wrong. Right away, they're going to be on guard. No, just say, listen, I've been thinking a lot about the work environment lately over the past couple weeks, months, whatever, however long it has been for you. And say, I would like to really, have a one-on-one conversation, or can we have a conference call with the team, or can I and you, if it's just a single manager or if you report to a couple one or more, say, can we set aside some time, 15 to 30 minutes and just talk, and I want to share some concerns. I'd like to hear your concerns about my performance and your expectations on me and what you expect from me as far as performances, in the interim and going forward. And I just want to have direct communication instead of going back and forth in an email or in a messaging software, because where it can be misconstrued. Can we do that, please? Would that be okay? Would that be okay if we can share, some dialogue and work to make everything better, or something like that? I'm just, spitballing here. Now, if your organization or your manager or management team is not willing to do that, start hunting for another job. That's a big red flag. Start hunting for a job ASAP. Get the resume dusted off. Start looking, because obviously they don't want things to change. They just want to rule with an iron fist, and all you are just in the early 1900 or late 1800 factory workers, and they don't give two fucking shits about you. Get out, okay? Get out. Run as fast as you can. Depending on how severe the situation is, how it's affecting your health, maybe just take a forced vacation and give them your notice. Give them 2 weeks notice. Say, well, I'm going to be leaving then. I'm going to resign. This is my formal 2-week notice. And if you have savings you can live on for a while or what have you, God bless you, do it and get another job. It's always better to look for a job when you have a job, though, in most cases, for most of us. Some other things you can do is, listen to your coworkers around you. If they are sharing the same concerns to you and bringing it, you've heard the old saying, there's strength in numbers. Again, try to have that conference call then with members of your team and the management, but not just one of you. Just say, hey, myself and a couple other members of the team, get a spokesperson or what have you, and let them, and, make sure the other 1, 2, 3, 4 people are willing to have that conversation on an open dialogue and an open line with management. Say, Well, do you want me to contact them, or do you want to? Or can you speak for, and then say we can reach out and be verified? Yes, we would like to have that conversation. And can we all be on the conference call? Let's clear the air. Let's find out what your expectations are, what you're seeing, what your concerns are with the department. Okay. And here's our expectations from the management team. How you provide us with some tools, or can you do this, or can you help us with more training on that, or maybe get us another person in the department, even if it's part-time or whatever. Try and put your heads together to work through it. And if they're willing to do that now, if they are absolutely willing to do something like this, oh, you've struck gold then. Then, okay, you know what? Because, managers can get stressed too, because they have people they have to answer to, and then maybe it's just filtering down. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what happens. But if you've got an organization or a manager or management team that is willing to do something like that, you've struck gold. At least you have an opportunity to salvage. But especially if you enjoy the type of work you do and everything, and you've got a lot of time vested in the organization, because no organization, I would think, at its core, wants to have a high turnover rate and lose people that they've invested, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 years worth of training and working for, because you pretty much would know your job and everything. So I would think that they would be happy to, try and work together to get this done. Now, go into that conversation realizing not all your needs are going to be met. This is like it's almost like a negotiation kind of thing. It's like a, collective bargaining agreement, but, nothing unionized. It's just, hey, we're going to have a conversation. Let's, almost like conflict resolution, kind of thing. And be honest. Don't be intimidating. Don't be overbearing. Don't go in there with a haughty attitude. Go in there with a, hey, we want to work this out. I want to work this out. My team wants to work this out. We want to work with you. We want to have that give and take. We understand, we're the workers, you're the managers, we're the workers, you're the company. We need some assistance. We have some concerns. We have, a certain way of professionalism we'd like to be treated with, what have you. Go in there, be honest and open, and not demanding and intimidating, and see what happens. And hopefully you can diffuse that toxic work environment. But I said, like I stated earlier, if they're not even willing to go that's just something basic. If they're not even willing to put aside time at all with you, or speak with you or the group as a whole at all, that's a very, very big red flag. It's time to move on. That this organization is on the downfall. And you might want to get out before there's a Titanic, because it struck the iceberg, and you might want to get the hell off the boat before it goes down and takes you with it. Because at the end of the day, my friends, your health, your well-being, that's all that matters. So, that's, what are you doing? Playing with the buttons there, Mr. Producer. Stop that. I'm trying to talk here. So, but yeah, try those techniques and see what happens. Like I said, if not, you may have to jump ship and find another organization and move on. Because at the end of the day, folks, it's about you. It's about your health, your well-being. What is the best thing for your life? Because, continuing to stay in a toxic relationship is awful. And you don't want to do it. So remember, do the best for you. All right? So thanks for listening today. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Mr. Announcer, take it away.
Thank you for listening to Wyce Thoughts. As always, you can listen to more episodes at wycethoughts.com or at purplepitstudios.com. If you enjoyed the program, please leave us a positive rating and review on your podcast provider and share us with your friends. You can reach out to us at mail, M-A-I-L, mail at wycethoughts.com. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, send it there. Until next time, we'll keep the virtual campfire burning. Thanks again for listening to Wyce Thoughts.